Well, good evening, everyone. For those of you who are on Facebook and on YouTube, welcome to the planning for our family reunion. We are looking to get back together again on this coming Sunday, the 24th, and we thought it appropriate to bring everyone together to have a conversation so that we can answer your questions after we impart some very important information. We want to make it clear to you that we are very focused on your safety and doing this again to your house. We pray tonight that in all our getting, we would get an understanding. Give us the mind of Christ. Thank you for the COVID committee and the wisdom that you've given unto them. I pray, Lord, that you would have your way tonight and all that is in your mind would come to pass on Sunday and the Sundays to come. Bless our conversation now, that we might be a blessing one to another. In Jesus' name, amen. I just want to make a few opening remarks and then I'll hand it over to Sam and he will lead us in a conversation, and others from the committee will engage as well. It's been almost 2 years since we shut down the live worship. And I was thinking about the early days of the pandemic. If you're not speaking, you should go on mute. I hear some reverberation. But I was thinking about the early days when I would drive from home to the sanctuary, and it was apocalyptic, nothing moving, no one stirring. And to see the distance that God has brought us from then to now is amazing. We recognize that we are to continue to be vigilant and not to let our guards down, but we've passed through what I call the apocalyptic moments of the early days. And as we are preparing to come back into the church, we want to give you some of the things that will be very pertinent as it relates to protocol, as it relates to conduct. And I just want to say very clearly, the way it will be is not going to be the way it was. I mean, it's not reasonable for us to even approach it that way because we're still living with this pandemic. However, we think that we've created an environment where we could come together in safety. I had the privilege and was blessed to be at our sister church, Abundant Life, this Sunday. And no doubt the timing was the will of God. I got to watch them execute their service, got to see the way they did things, spoke to Reverend Ann Johnson today. And Sam and I gleaned some additional information. We've interacted with and will continue to with Abundant Life, including an environmental specialist, Dr. Richard Lynch. And so we are doing all that we can. Obviously, we will follow the protocols of the CDC or the guidelines, as well as the city of Philadelphia. But in addition to that, we're going beyond. And so as I come to the close of my remarks, I just want to say a few things. Call these rules of engagement. Registration will be necessary. And we will have a registration and check-in process from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you get there at 8 a.m., you won't be able to get in to register until 8:30. If you get there at 10:05, registration will be locked. We put these brackets so that we can manage the flow in and out and make certain that we are able to keep safety. Everything that we're doing is for your good and for God's glory, so that we do it right, we do it responsibly, and everyone is clear about what the process will be. We will also be soliciting volunteers to assist with the registration. The process, and Sam will give you more details. I just want to complete this message and then I'll hand it off. Can be found on our Church Center app or by going to our website. If I, for example, register the Oliver family, when I get to campus in the narthex and interface with one of the volunteers, I can check in my entire family. So we want to make it expeditious. We want to make it easy. We have QR codes, etc. I'll let that detail come after, but I just thought it necessary to be clear about the bookends in terms of registration. It will not be open-ended. It's time-bound. Our service starts at 9:30, so we will do a half hour before and a half hour after, so that it gives people a 90-minute interval to come into the sanctuary. So with that, we will impart some information, and then you have an opportunity to ask questions. We will entertain your questions. We'll try to communicate those things that we have anticipated in the information that we're giving. However, there may be some things on your mind that we have not touched upon in our content. So with that, Sam, I'll give it over to you.
Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate the introduction, specifically about our registration process, because as you alluded to, things will be a little bit different than what they were. And obviously, a registration is much different than anything that we've experienced in the past. And so I appreciate you just offering that context. And just as Pastor said, it will be a 90-minute registration. It's going to open 1 hour before service. Service starts at 9:30. And so registration will be open starting 8:30. But we will aim to close registration 30 minutes after service is started. And so again, 8:30 to 10 a.m. will be our registration window. I'm speaking on behalf of our COVID committee. The COVID committee has we've been together since the onset of the pandemic, and we have worked to provide protocols so that we can safely return to the sanctuary. And before I sort of go through some of the protocols, I want to, for just clarity, provide just a little bit of information. And again, as Pastor alluded, we've worked closely with Abundant Life Fellowship from the onset, quite frankly. And obviously, there are scenarios that are very different in Philadelphia and in New Jersey. And so even our approach won't be identical, but it is good to have a sister church where we could work together just in terms of looking at how do we best keep our members safe. The first thing I'll just state, just for full transparency, is that there's no single practice that eliminates the risk of getting or contracting COVID while at New Covenant Church. There's not one single practice. And additionally, we cannot guarantee zero spread. That's just not possible. That's not something that we can guarantee. However, we do have a lot of protocols that we have implemented that we think will greatly reduce the risk of transmission. And so part of that I'm going to jump into in terms of our protocols. But as Pastor first started was with our registration. And the reason we have a registration is, quite frankly, we're not going to be reopening at maximum capacity. So the first protocol to reduce the risk of transmission is simply to reduce the number of people in the sanctuary at a given time. And so in our approach, what we've elected to do is to have an open registration on our website. You can actually go to the website right now and register for the upcoming service. The registration on our website allows for about a 20% capacity, or 20% capacity of our overall capacity in our open website registration. And I just want to repeat that just to clear any confusion. What I'm saying is that if in registering online, we have a pathway where we can register of about 20% capacity of the full sanctuary capacity, you can register online. Additionally, our community engagement team has been working to help some of our seniors and those who may not have access to the technology, may not have access to our website, may just not have the familiarity in terms of how to register. We are engaging our community engagement teams to contact those individuals, and we have a separate registration process for that group of people. And not only is it separate, but it allows us to, again, operate safely within the sanctuary. And so again, we have about a 20% registration capacity within the open registration of the website. And then our community engagement team has identified our members that may need additional support, who may not have access to the website, who may not have access to our application on their phone. And so we're going to ensure that those individuals are also registered. Additionally, we have a number of people that work or volunteer on Sunday mornings that are part of our service. Our worship and arts, our audio visual teams, our ushers, our greeters. We are also going to account for them in terms of our overall capacity numbers. So again, the reason that our registration on the website is at a fairly low number, 20%, is because we're accounting for the other components of registrants that will allow us to operate safely within the sanctuary and still under about a 50% capacity limit. Just for full transparency, all of the Philadelphia guidance related to religious facilities have been lifted. What that means is that we could make a decision to operate at full capacity. We would not be violating any guidance or regulation that has been offered. There is no guidance for religious facilities, but because of our efforts to ensure you are safe, and as we are approaching a reopening, we are electing to reduce our capacity numbers at the onset. And so again, today, right now, if you are going to the New Covenant Church website, on the top banner where it says our upcoming service, there's a yellow banner. If you click on that link, you will see your opportunity to register for this upcoming Sunday. Now, protocols in terms of the sanctuary. Because we are limiting our numbers, we're also going to limit the access points to the sanctuary for two reasons. The main reason is because we have now registration. And because we're registering persons and actually checking individuals in, we want to make sure that we are able to support our check-in process. And if we had every door accessible, we would not have the capacity to do so. So on a Sunday morning, the two entrances that you would use are either the main parking lot carport entrance. So the carport entrance will be the main entrance, as well as the tech lot or ADA parking lot. Those will be the two entrances that will be open that will have the check-in set up for all persons who have registered for service. Those are the two entrances. So I'll just repeat, it'll be the carport entrance, which is right next to the main parking lot, as well as the tech or ADA parking lot entrance that is right off of the Children and Family Center on that side, or where the nursery is. Those will be the two entrances. And at those two entrances, we will have a check-in station so that those persons coming in who have registered can then check themselves in. Upon entering the sanctuary, it is required that you wear a mask. And Dr. Warren at a point in time will indicate more information about why wearing a mask for us is necessary, but it is required. And wearing a mask means you are covering both your nose and your mouth. Okay, so we are ensuring that you're wearing a mask. If for whatever reasons you forget your mask, we will have one at the door. And just understand, if you are intending to worship with us on a Sunday morning and you do not have a mask, one will be provided for you. If you do not intend to wear that mask, unfortunately, that is going to be required for worshiping with us on a Sunday morning. So again, the two things were to be the entrances, the carport entrance and the ADA parking lot, and then wearing a mask to enter the sanctuary. Now, one of the phrases that I think we've affectionately coined since the pandemic has started is live together, sit together. We are still continuing with live together, sit together. And we're going to assist with that. And the way we're going to assist with that are twofold. One, we are actually going to be seating persons through the direction of our ushers. We're using every other row for seating. I know there have been a number of members who have attended, who have actually come into the sanctuary for reasons outside of a Sunday service, and so they may be familiar with that. But for those who have not come at all, please accept the direction of our ushers, and they are going to seat you every other row. Additionally, we are going to leave two seats in between each household. Now, we are not going to determine what a household is. We are not. If you are coming with your friend and you all want to sit together, we're not going to object to that at all. We're not going to say, wait a minute, you don't live with this person, you cannot sit together. That's not what we're going to do. But what we are going to ensure is that after you're seated, the next household or the next person who comes in, there will be two seats in between. And the reason I must stress that point is because our ushers are going to seat everyone with that format in mind. So if you come in on a Sunday and let's say you are intending to sit with someone, all that we ask is while you are being seated, you inform the ushers at that time so that that additional seat can be allocated. The reason that is important is because if that does not occur and you're seated and the next family comes in 2 seats apart, what we do not want to have happen is that someone comes in and says, I am supposed to be sitting with them, and it reduces the number of seats in between households. So again, if your desire is to sit with someone, all that we ask is that you indicate so while you are being seated by our ushers so that that additional seat can be reserved to ensure that the next household has the 2 seats in between you and them. Live together, sit together. Bathrooms. All of our bathrooms will be accessible. When you enter the sanctuary, you will see signage on our bathrooms. We are right now asking that we limit occupancy to 3 persons at a time. Again, we're asking that we're limiting our occupancy in the restrooms to 3 people at a time. We're just asking that you adhere to that. We do have a number of restrooms available in the sanctuary. So again, we are limiting the number of people in the bathrooms at a given time. And so we just ask that you honor the signage that you will see placed right on each restroom facility, indicating what our occupancy level or number is, which is 3. Hand sanitizing stations. So the hand sanitizing stations will be positioned at the entrances to the sanctuary. And I just want to offer a little bit more context in terms of even how we enter the sanctuary. As Pastor stated before, what we are returning to the sanctuary, but we're not returning to what things were pre-pandemic. And so in this new season of New Covenant Church, the ushers are only going to be escorting you in through the double door entrances. Okay, so ushers will escort you into the sanctuary, and we've identified the entrances. They are only going to be the entrances that have the double doors. With that said, the center entrance will not be accessible. We've done some modifications, and we're actually building an area for our audio-visual team. And so that main entrance right in the center aisle will not be an entrance, even though that is a double door. And that's why I'm just indicating that we're using the double door entrances to enter the sanctuary, except the main center aisle. That will not be an entrance to be used. But again, please accept and receive the instructions of our ushers. And then the last piece is in terms of children's or the nursery or children's church. As of right now, we are not resuming our children's activities on site. So we will not have children's church on site. That will still be virtual. We will not have the nursery will not be open, and we will not have individuals that will be managing the nursery. As of right now, we are only going to be worshiping in the sanctuary. Additionally, the cry room will not be available. So the nursery, the cry room, and children's church will not occur on Sunday morning, as of right now. Over time, there'll be a time when that will be reintroduced, but as of right now, we are just going to mainly worship in the sanctuary. Will be that will be the breadth of your worship experience right now on a Sunday. One other point that I really want to offer that is really important, and I know on Sunday, Pastor will reiterate this message, and family, I know it's going to be challenging. I know it's going to be challenging, but the Lord has blessed us with 33 acres of open space. All we ask is that when service concludes, that we do not congregate in the narthex. When service concludes, please, I know it's going to be challenging because we're going to be excited and seeing our loved ones for the first time in a while, but we can take that conversation right outside where we have nice open space. The patio will be available. We have the great, wonderful lawn, and those who have joined us for Sunday services, you have the lawn. So there are many areas outside where you can freely fellowship. We just ask that, again, you follow the directions of our ushers who will be positioned when benediction occurs, that you just follow the direction and exit the sanctuary as well as the narthex, even for your time of fellowship. So again, those are some of the safety measures that the COVID team has implemented to ensure that those who are going to be attending service for the first time in over 18 months have an experience where they feel safe, have an experience where they're able to freely worship, but also recognize that the protocols and the provisions that have been made are in your best interest. We've also implemented and installed touchless devices within our restroom. So our soap dispenser, as well as our paper towel dispenser, you no longer have to physically touch those items in order to wash your hands. And again, so we are continuing to update, improve, to create sort of a COVID-friendly space within our sanctuary. I will also ask for grace. And the reason I will ask for grace is that as we are continuing to work to prepare, there are other considerations that are underway within our sanctuary. Our virtual experience is something that we will never move away from. And so as we continue to now reintroduce a live worship experience and couple that with our virtual experience, there are some modifications that are occurring in our sanctuary. And again, we just ask you for grace in this time. But it's interesting, just as a note, Brother Keith provided me with some images and actually video of when we first entered the sanctuary after we had, and this is when we first came to New Covenant Church. The first time we entered the sanctuary after the sanctuary was built, there were still cinder blocks on the walls. You know, it looked rough, you know, but I remember seeing the footage. We couldn't wait to get in there, you know, and I'm not trying to set an expectation that you're going to walk in and see cinder blocks. That's not what I'm saying. So please don't hear what I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that please allow us the grace of realizing that we are improving the space to ensure that everyone has a wonderful experience, whether you are in person or if you're going to continue to worship with us virtually. And so I'll just quickly repeat or reiterate some of the protocols that we've implemented to ensure, again, knowing that we cannot ensure there's zero spread, but we can reduce the risks significantly. And the way we're going to reduce the risks are to reduce our capacity. Again, our open registration only allows for about a 20% capacity because we have another registration pathway for some of our members who may not be able to do it electronically. And we want to make sure that they are accounted for, as well as those who are participating in the Sunday service, so that we are well under a 50% total capacity within our sanctuary. That's number one. Number two, Entrances. We're going to limit our entrances to the carport entrance where the main parking lot exists, as well as the ADA parking lot entrance where the nursery is. Those will be our 2 entrances where we will have our check-in stations. 3, PPE. Wear your face mask. Masks are required. They are required in worshiping in the sanctuary. And I just want to actually, in stating that, I want to make one quick point. When worship begins, you will see that our worship and art team will not have a mask. However, they are adequately distanced away from you, our members, to ensure safety. And so they are at least 18 feet away. Obviously, 6 feet is the mandate in terms of social distancing, but they are more than 18 feet away from you. And so again, all that is kept in mind in terms of ensuring your safety. But masks are required. We want you to be able to sing and worship the Lord freely, but please make sure you have your mask. Third, seating. Fourth, live together, sit together. That's just going to be our mantra. It was our mantra when we came and worshiped outside in our unity service. And when we come back in for our family reunion, live together, sit together. We are seating every other row. So again, please, just the direction of our ushers. It's important that you follow their instructions. There is not self-seating. Again, that is a change from the pre-pandemic where you kind of just come in, you find your personal seat, and that's how things were. We're in a new season, and in this season, we're going to follow the instructions of our ushers who have laid out and mapped out a format to seat us appropriately. Additionally, we are going to leave 2 seats in between each household. So again, if you're being seated and the person that you're intending to sit with has not arrived, please indicate that to the usher so that they can allocate the seat while you're being seated, so that we can ensure that next household has at least 2 seats in between you and them. Hand sanitizing stations. We have hand sanitizing stations will be positioned at all the entrances to the sanctuary. So all the double door entrances, again, except the main aisle, which is not going to be an access, but all of our other double door entrances will have a hand sanitizing station so that you can sanitize your hands upon entering. Our bathroom occupancy is limited to 3 persons at a time, and we just ask that you adhere to that policy. Again, we do have many bathrooms that will be available, and we just ask that you adhere to the 3 person limitation. We are not doing any active children's church or children's providing children activities during service. So again, our children's church will be virtual. The nursery and the cry room will not be accessible on October 24th. There will be a time when we reintroduce those components, but on Sunday, the nursery and the cry room, unfortunately, will not be available. Most important, sanitization. So we have purchased a COVID fogger machine. Once service concludes, our staff will use COVID stamped supplies and a fogger to properly desanitize every seat in the sanctuary. Our staff has been outstanding in their methods of ensuring things are clean, and we will ensure that we keep you safe. So we do have equipment that is COVID approved to sanitize every single seat in every area that is in use, and that will occur after every single service. And so again, I just hope that you appreciate the effort that is being taken in the sense that it is for your safety. None of these actions is intended to put upon you in any way. I hope that is received, that you feel that as a committee, these safeguards are just to ensure that you can safely worship. We are not trying to infringe on liberties or anything of that nature, but because Philadelphia is still a high risk of transmission, not saying that the rates are going up, but just because Philadelphia is still, according to the website, a high risk of transmission, we are going to require masks when you come in, and we are going to ensure that these protocols are adhered to while worshiping in the sanctuary. And so with that, I know at the end of our time, we're going to open up for some Q&A if there are any questions or comments. But I also wanted to have our physician, Dr. Warren, just offer sort of a note or information just related to vaccinations. New Covenant has been consistent related to a position of ensuring that members know where they can get vaccinated, that we actually had an opportunity of partnering with Chestnut Hill, where we created our own personal process for vaccinations. And all we are saying, I think Dr. Warren will echo this and provide context from his field, just around why vaccinations are important. And so, Dr. Warren, with that, since we reviewed the protocols, I think it is appropriate just to even talk about vaccinations, because I never said vaccinations were required to attend service. So I want to make that clear that is not what we are communicating. And so please understand that is the case, that vaccinations are not required to attend service, but we still want to make sure that we are communicating how we feel the importance of being vaccinated. And so with that, Dr. Warren.
Thanks, Sam. I just want to say that Sam has clearly outlined the hygienic, the physical, and the social measures that we recommended to help keep you safe and make you feel safe when you return to service to enjoy the worship experience. And that's our ultimate goal, is to be protective of everyone involved. Certainly, we know about the public health measures that have been in place to help us get past this pandemic. As Sam has said, vaccinations are not required to attend service. Certainly, we would want everyone to be vaccinated, but we know that will not be reality for whatever reasons. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What I'm here to stress is that one of the major tools we have to get us past this pandemic is vaccination. Vaccinations I've spoken about before, safe and effective. Even though we've heard about breakthrough cases, even though we recently heard about approval for boosters, still being vaccinated 6 months ago offers at least 80% protection against serious illness and deaths, which are really the true measure of success of the vaccination program. Not necessarily prevent you from getting ill, we will get ill, but the vaccines are very, very, very effective in preventing serious illness and deaths. Our FDA and the CDC will make vaccinations more available as far as the Johnson & Johnson, the Pfizer, and the Moderna of the world. Other types of treatments are in the pipeline, but still, as an individual who can and should get vaccinated, we recommend it. First of all, many people who are vaccinated, who will be among us, 65 plus, are those with chronic conditions, who have been fully vaccinated may not be fully protected because the immune system have not been able to mount a response to keep them fully protected. Therefore, if many people who come to church are vaccinated, that reduces the chance of them getting reinfected from being exposed to someone who may have COVID-19 with or without knowing it, okay? Mask wearing is important, and masks should be well fitted to cover the nose and the mouth, not hanging below the nose, because when you breathe through your nose, and you cough or you sneeze, you use your mouth. Both orifices can expel contaminated fluid to spread to others. It is true, when you get vaccinated, there is a significant reduction in your ability to not only get infected, but to spread the virus, but still we know it is possible. Therefore, the wearing a mask is critical in order to help us be safe and feel safe. Okay. So it is not a requirement, but it is strongly a recommendation to get vaccinated. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. So again, not a requirement, but it is a strong recommendation. And this is not even specific to New Covenant. I think you're hearing Dr. Warren just making a recommendation as a medical practitioner about vaccinations in general. But you mentioned something, Dr. Warren, that I forgot to also reiterate, or not even reiterate, I never even mentioned it initially, is that there's a personal responsibility that we all must take in this action. And so if you are not feeling well, please watch the service online. If you've been under the weather, please watch the service online. It is important that we all take personal responsibility at this time. And so as much as we all want to come back to church, if you're under the weather, if you know that, hey, I've been sneezing, I have a cough, I have a cold, I don't think it's too bad. But if that's the case, we just ask that you responsibly opt out of attending service. Even if you've registered, even if you had registered for service, and as the week went on, you felt something different about yourself, we just ask that you opt out of attending and join us virtually. And so with that, that concludes sort of the protocols related to attending services. Again, registration is open right now. Again, it's only about a 20% capacity in terms of the number of registrations that can be filled out online. And so it will close. But again, the purpose is because we're not operating at full capacity. Once we get to that point, obviously we will work and adjust our process. But as of right now, we have a registration that is open that will accommodate about 20% capacity. Our community engagement team are registering persons who are not going to be able to register online. And we've allocated X amount of registrations for those people specifically. And we have also taken into account all those that are participating in a Sunday morning worship service to ensure that every Sunday we are not above about a 50% capacity within the sanctuary. And so again, live together, sit together. You're wearing your masks at all times, You're going to enter through the carport entrance and the ADA parking lot entrance only. That there are hand sanitizing stations at the entrances into the actual sanctuary, that you're going to follow the instructions and directions of our ushers, and that after service ends, we're just asking that if you want to fellowship and greet one another, that takes place outside of the sanctuary building, outside of the narthex, where you can enjoy, again, the beautiful acreage that the campus offers. Pastor?
Thank you, Sam. Very well done. I hope you all agree that the information was thorough, it was clear, and praying that you see it and deem it as useful. We want to make certain that when we come back together, we come expecting a move of God, and we can do it from those who were a part of the planning with a clear conscience and with integrity. And for those of you who are coming, you know that you're going to be dwelling in safety. I was talking to someone today from Abundant Life, and they said the safest place to be on Sunday is Abundant Life because of the measures. And the measures we take will be similar so that you can feel safer than you would in a restaurant or in other public spaces. We're going to do our very, very best because we have a higher calling. And so I hope you sense that. I hope you know that, and you should expect that. We will constantly monitor things as we go in, as we observe things, as we learn things. We will adapt, we will adjust. We'll do what we need to do to make certain that we maintain a consistent vigilance. And I think one of the things that tends to happen when things are moving, I talked about the beginning when it was like apocalyptic, nothing moving. Everyone was on the top of their game in terms of safety and distancing. But then we start moving about. You're more likely to shake hands, to hug, to do all of those things that we wouldn't dare do 18 months ago. We want to make certain that we maintain the practice of social distance, that we do a knuckle bump or an elbow bump with clothing, and refrain from those other things that we used to do. There will be no greeting guests. There will be no hugging one another. Those days are behind us. We will do things that will acknowledge individuals, but we will do it in a way that is safe, that is responsible. So I just want to give you some context to what I meant when I said what the way it will be is not going to be the way it was, because it's not reasonable for us to go back to that. And I believe God had a purpose for doing what he's done in shaking things up and getting us to do things a little differently. If you study the history of pandemics, every one of them brings with it or brought with them structural change. When the world was afflicted with cholera, which infects the water and brings toxicity and causes death, we now have aquifers and filters and filtration, and there's clean drinking water. There are fewer outhouses. All of that happened as a result of cholera. The influenza pandemic of 1918, lots and lots of people were affected. 1/3 of the world's population at the time. A lot of death. It was 10% in terms of the lethal nature of it. COVID is around 2%. So that was more lethal. Influenza is still with us today, but we've learned how to manage it. You get vaccinations each year because the mutation happens. The reason I bring that up is we learn how to live with those things. And each one of them taught us something. COVID is going to cause us to be more vigilant with ventilation. Ventilation systems will never be the same. Just as 9/11 caused a structural change in the way we travel, so it is with each of these pandemics. Things happen. And on the other side of it, it's generally for the better. And so I'm grateful to God that we now are at a place where we can come back together, but we're going to do it with discipline. We're going to do it with vigilance. We're going to do it with integrity because we love one another. And we don't do it for selfish reasons. We love our neighbor as ourselves. And that's why we do what's responsible. That's why we will wear masks. And that's why we'll do all the things that Sam outlined. Now, at this point, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. If you're on Facebook, you can do that. I don't think that is possible with YouTube. If I'm wrong, someone tell me in the chat otherwise. But we want to be able to answer any questions that you might have. Either you need clarification on something, or maybe there's something you thought about or are thinking about that wasn't addressed tonight. We want to be able to do that. If we can't efficiently respond tonight, we will find a way for your voice to be heard so that we can make certain that we have your input and that we go forward in a way that is comprehensive and complete. Are there questions coming through, Sam?
I do see a question in chat. It says, can non-members join the service? Yes.
Yes.
If you know of a non-member, we would just ask that you direct them to the website. Anyone can register to attend service. So non-members absolutely are able to register to attend service. That was one of the questions that I did see in the chat.
In fact, there have been people who either come through 2 Fish 5 Loaves or in other settings that have said they want to, when the church opens, they want to come in. So I anticipate there'll be people who have not. Some of them will be coming back to New Covenant. Maybe they moved somewhere else. They came back to Philadelphia. I've heard of those types. And then I've heard of people who just want to come in fellowship because they watched the live stream or they've interacted with the ministry on Saturdays through 2 Fish 5 Loaves. So as Sam said, by all means, the answer is yes.
The second question, or another question is it weekly registration? As of right now, the answer is yes. Each week you'll have the opportunity to register for the upcoming Sunday. So we're going to do registrations weekly. And again, we're just going to assess this, and then we'll have a time where we may change this process. But as of right now, we are going to require weekly registrations. Additionally, upon benediction, all of the exits and entrances will be open. So you can exit through the carport, you can exit under the clock tower, you can exit through the ADA, you can exit through the side parking lot entrance. So when service concludes, all of the doors will be available to exit the sanctuary. But in terms of entering the sanctuary, we are restricting that because we have check-in points. So we're restricting access to come in because we have check-in stations. But upon the conclusion of service, all of the exits will be available for you to walk out of.
Sam, I just got another question. It's around how offerings will be handled. So we will have stations, is probably a box, black boxes, that as you go out of the exits, you can drop your tithes and offering in those boxes.
That is correct.
The way we will dismiss, and I learned this at Abundant Life, is very orderly, from back to front. So the ushers will release you by row so that we don't have convergence and lots of people coming together and encroaching on space. So we want to make certain that not only while we're in the sanctuary, but as we exit the sanctuary, we want to do it orderly and maintain good social distance. And the best way to do that is by having an exit that is a rolling exit. So we'll begin at the rear and then we'll go forward. And that's how we'll do it. But then the offering, you can, in your tithes, you can drop it in. For those who will be watching online, we'll have the same options: Giveify, PayPal, etc.
I have another question related to those who are participating in service. Do you have to register? For this week, we're asking that all who are attending service register, but it's a wonderful question because we are talking through a different way of checking in those individuals that are participating in service. But right now, we do want everyone to register, being that it's a new process. And again, we are going to work to identify a pathway of at least checking in all of those who are participating in service on a weekly basis. But for the 24th, everyone should register for service. However, if for whatever reason you are participating in service and you waited a little bit too long to register, we will still be able to effectively check you in. So if you were not able to register, but you're scheduled to participate that service, please, come in. If you are scheduled to come in, we will still be able to effectively check you in. But as a process, we want everyone to familiarize themselves with the registration process. And not only can you register online, but this is also, like Pastor was talking about, with the different things that sort of come out of a pandemic, or what he talked about was specifically with the airports. The Church Center app, we have a new application that allows us to really connect in really unique ways. This is also a pathway for you to do your registration. And so for those who have not downloaded the app yet, please take the time to go. And I think what we'll have, we will provide those details in terms of how you can download the app. I think it's actually on our website, how you can download the app and you'll be able to just register for services right from your phone without actually going on the website. You can do it from the application. So again, this is an opportunity for you to get connected via our new app. It is something that we actually can use while we're actually live in person. It is not just a virtual tool. It's a tool that actually also enhances our in-person experiences. And so get connected, get on Planning Center app. Here's a question. How will we know when the cutoff is for registration? You'll know because you'll be unable to register. Unfortunately, when it is cut off and you attempt to register, a form will not be provided. So there is an actual count that indicates how many registrations are still available. And once we exceed that number and it's capped, you will not be able to effectively register for service. So that's how you will know that you can't register, is because you won't be able to register. But it does have a count so that you can actually see where you are in that registration process.
And I hope you understand that the only way we can manage the capacity and the cap is by having that limit. But you know, if you miss it that week, watch it online and then register for the following week. And so,
Sure.
Next question.
Next question. If you are registered and have confirmation, do you still need to register at the door? So if you are registered and have confirmation, then you will actually just be checking in at the door. So you're not registering at the door. If you have registered, then essentially we're just checking in. So you will still need to stop at the door to check in, but not to re-register. So if you've registered effectively, then when you come in, we're going to see your registration information, and we're just taking account that you are present. So you're checking in because you've registered. You're not effectively registering twice at the door.
We're looking to see if there are any more questions. Good questions. Very
Excellent questions.
Good questions. Yeah, and any clarifying questions, feel free to ask them while you have our ears, so that we can make certain that everyone is clear on the process. Yes.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off, Pastor. I was going to say, in addition, if we don't get to a question, please still leave it in this chat, because we can still respond. So this will be a video that'll be posted on our website, on Facebook. If you're unable to, if we missed a question right now while we're speaking, we'll still be able to review all the questions that were raised and provide you with the response. And because you're connected to Facebook, you'll see the response come in. So please, you know, even if later in the week you have a question, please feel free to leave your question and we will respond accordingly.
So I have a couple here, and it's, can we email the protocols so that people have them? So there are some things that we're going to probably refine a bit. So we have our general protocols that were discussed, but when you talk about ventilation, there are spaces called dead spaces where you don't have good circulation. So those we'll stay away from. But if someone wants to have a meeting, let's say it's not Sunday morning, it's not where we apply these broad protocols. We want to have protocols for those things also, so that we'll send those. So the short answer is yes. We can mail those out, but we have just a little more refinement to do. Will security play a role this Sunday? The answer is yes. We always have security, and this Sunday will be no different. There's a question about registration. As Sam mentioned, you can do it on the our app, our planning center app or church center. You can also do it on the website. When you come into the building, it'll just be validating your registration. It's kind of a check-in. So there's registration and check-in. It's like if you went to see CC Winans and you bought a ticket at Leah Coors. When you go in, you would show a QR code or something on a paper ticket or on your phone. It's the same thing. Or if you go to the airport, you already bought your ticket. When you go through security, you have to check in. So it's just confirming your registration. And then finally, have church air systems been improved? I mentioned earlier that we're having dialogue with an environmental specialist who is giving us guidance on our HVAC system and the levels of air purification and circulation that are required. So the answer is yes. And where our levels are, we will find out, but it's something that we plan to do. That's what I'm answering yes to. And so, in fact, probably maybe as soon as tomorrow, Sam, myself, and Jerry is what we talked about. will speak with this environmental specialist.
That sounds good.
And then the next question is, are we still live streaming the service? Yes, we are. And so we will interact with both audiences simultaneously because we're going to have a cap in order to make certain that we have spacing and we can worship together in a way that's safe and responsible. We want to make certain that we have the live stream as an overflow, and for those people who don't live locally, who have now been tuning in regularly. So we will definitely maintain both. We plan on doing this for the long haul. So Sam, I think I got to the bottom of the questions. As they come in, I'll read them. Do you have any more on your side?
No, so there was a question related to where can you register, and in the YouTube chat, but the link was just provided that it's on the website, so that was just posted to the chat directly. Where a person can register right there on our website.
Okay, that's good. That's service. That's good service. Yeah.
I think I'm also receiving questions here, so let me just make sure.
It may be the ones I just, because you and I are on a similar thread. So I just saw about a half a dozen of them. Yeah, so it's those have been responded to. So I just want to thank everyone for your questions. If things need to be clarified, we will follow up with the protocols. We can send that out so that people have them to reference so that you're very clear. But we want to make certain that we give you the things that are pertinent and relevant. We're not going to send you CDC guidelines and things that are publicly available and inundate you, but the things that are relevant to our Sunday service and to how we need to behave when we come together, we will definitely follow up and make certain that you get those things. I'm excited about us coming back together again, the time and space that has passed where we've been communicating virtually, the opportunity to have fellowship, the opportunity to worship together, the opportunity for us as a family to come back. It will be a reunion, a spiritual reunion. I am certain that there will be a move of God. And so I'm looking forward to seeing all of you who register, and I'm looking forward to continuing to connect with you who choose to watch online. And we hope to have a quality experience for both audiences. We are continuing to learn. We're continuing to grow. I am so grateful to God that since the beginning of the pandemic, March of 2020, we have not missed a service. And it's not because we have had the capabilities, we didn't even have the proper equipment, but we turned things around quickly. God raised up some faithful servants in the house. Somebody said to me today, whatever we need is in the house. I wish somebody would put in the chat, it's in the house, because God has been faithful to us. And I believe the best is yet to come. And so I thank God for each of you. I'm looking forward to returning to the sanctuary. And I pray that God would make it like the remnant when they returned from Babylon and came back into the city that Nehemiah had built. I pray for an experience like that. Better yet, I pray for an experience like Solomon when he dedicated the temple and the Spirit of God was so strong that the priest couldn't stand to minister. So I hope you can sense that my expectation, and I pray that your expectation, is that we will have a move of God, and the time and space that is past will not be lost. God will restore everything that the locusts and the cankerworms have devoured. And so God bless you. God keep you and keep the faith. Let me close in prayer. Father, we thank you for your precious people. We thank you for this time. We thank you for allowing us to come back together in your house. We, your people, say like David, one thing I have desired of the Lord, and that will I seek after, that we might dwell in your house all the days of our lives and behold your beauty. God, we're looking forward to beholding your beauty together once more. We thank you. We thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your power. And God, as we leave this conversation, but never your presence, go before us, go with us, continue to stir us. We thank you for the team that you've anointed and appointed. Continue to give them insight. God, and as we continue to monitor, help us to be vigilant. Help us to do all that you put in our hands to do. Bless your people now and make us a blessing. In Jesus' name, amen. New Covenant, keep the faith. God bless you.
Let's take care, all.